We had just finished practice and were leaving the practice room a little bit later than usual. I remember practice had been quite uneventful. We'd been working on the one song for a while, and it felt close to finishing. As we exited the building, I felt a small twinge of annoyance as the wind swept swiftly across my face. Clumsily, I had left my drumsticks behind. I couldn't register why at the time, but as soon as I realised this, a sickening dread crept into my stomach. For some reason, my mind could only think of reasons not to go back into the practice room. I dismissed these thoughts as childish though, and quickly informed my bandmates that I would be re-entering the building to get them. As I entered, the door closed shut firmly behind me as darkness engulfed me. Fortunately, a light switch nearby quickly resolved this issue, and I was able to step forwards quickly, ascending the stairs towards the practice room. As I approached, the feeling that there was something amiss rose within me, and the wind began howling outside. I'm not ashamed to admit that I was afraid. As I came close to the door, an eerie glow emanating from the crack close to the floor, which I'm sure wasn't there before. The conviction that there was something that didn't belong in there grew and grew within me. I supposed we'd left the light on and quickly wrestled with the lock, keys jangling around the hallway. It took longer than usual to get the door open, and fear caused me to hesitate once I had succeeded. I edged the door open slowly, tiptoeing into the room. An old man stood there, quietly tending to a fire in the centre of the room, as if it had appeared by magic. I was amazed at how he had got in there, but still felt the unease that something was amiss. I froze, seeming to slide further into the room while every fibre of my being willed myself to leave. I asked the man who he was, and he snickered, grinning underneath a hooded brow. He informed me he was Satan, and that he was going to take me to hell. Derision quickly flooded out my fear, briefly, as I snorted. I told him he was going to have to prove it, show me a magic trick that only Satan could achieve. Smiling, he replied, telling me that I did not understand the real threat being posed here. And with a flurry of his hands, a goat came charging out of the fire, with a flower clamped in its mouth, which it then dropped at my feet, before bounding out of the room. Despite the majestic trick and the beautiful offering, the dread in me continued to rise. His warning of the threat I couldn't perceive goading it on. What was I not understanding? What was wrong? He offered to take me down to hell, and I quickly obliged, keen to escape whatever it was in this room that my mind and body feared and detested so strongly. After approximately 10,000 years existing in the fiery depths of hell, I had begun to forget that feeling, the searing dread, the knowing that there was something utterly and completely wrong. However, little did I know that it would return. After 10,000 years of eagerly accepting whatever punishment Satan could throw at me, he became annoyed, said he'd become bored of me. He told me he had lied to me the day I had been brought down here, that he had not taken me to my hell, but had really been saving me from my own personal hell by whisking me away, and that he had expected to see some morsel of suffering in return for having to commit such a heinous act of kindness. I would have to be returned. I begged and pleaded, offered to be better at suffering in hell, but he wouldn't relent. I was returned to the practice room 1 second later than I had been taken. Without Satan's calming presence, I was quickly engulfed by this feeling of oncoming doom once more, of being in the presence of something completely grotesque, endlessly unnatural. I fell back as the choking feelings took over. I reached back to push myself to my feet and my fingers curled tensely around a piece of wood. A slight twinge of relief blossomed barely as I realised I had found my drumsticks. With every ounce of my strength I got up and turned to go, and that was when I saw it. Leaning against the wall, every bit as horrifying as I could ever imagine, the outline of a guitar loomed. I backed away, falling back once more, moaning no over and over that it couldn't possibly be. But there it stood. My heart hammered. Choking, rasping breaths escaped me. John's guitar, his most prized possession, the one thing he loves more than life itself, had been left alone, left for just anyone to see and touch whenever they used the practice room. Heinous. I took out my phone, struggling to breathe, determined to take a picture to garner some form of evidence of the horrific event so that someone, anyone, would believe me. Someone had to believe me. I managed to take the shot but gasped in frustration as the image came through to the screen blurred, deformed beyond any unrecognisable shape. Perhaps due to the universe's rejection of such an occurrence. Or possibly, now that I think about it, due to my hands shaking in fear. Miraculously, my legs began moving and I shot towards the door, adrenaline providing a lifeline, an escape. The drumsticks and phone fell out of my hands as I crashed into the hallway, clattering into the ground, forgotten, irrelevant now compared to the need to escape. I crawled down the stairs, struggling to move forwards, my movements groggy, uncontrolled, like I was being pulled back into the terror that awaited back in the practice room. Or possibly due to concussion from crashing through the door. I cursed the devil for banishing me from hell as I clattered down the stairs, using gravity to leverage myself away. As I exited the building, I gasped for air. It was over. I had overcome seeing the worst of the world's horrors. However, every time I shut my eyes, the memory would take much longer to overcome. Suddenly, I felt a sharp pain in my side, and I was flat on my back, gazing blearily at the sky. A goat scampered away triumphantly as a figure appeared, looming above. I stared up at the bearded face, mouthing the obvious question, why? His expression was haunted as he opened his mouth to answer.